Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Donica DeCastro, and you are tuning in to the What's in Your Case podcast. My guest for this podcast is someone I've known for about 26 years, but because they live so far away, I rarely get to see them. Talented singer, songwriter, producer, poet, originally from the Bay Area, but has slowly moved around the country. They describe themselves as an earth dweller. My guest, my cousin, REIA.
Hello.
So is this your first podcast experience?
No, it is not, actually. I've had one other podcast. I don't know if they still do it, but they were doing more of like a storytelling podcast, which was kind of cool. They would ask me questions to tell a story, and I would have to use my own songs to answer the questions.
Interesting. I'll have to look that up one of these days.
Yeah.
Now, both of us do music, but we operate in pretty much different genres.
Mm-hmm.
We've both come from musical families, but it's funny how many of us grew up playing instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I knew you learned how to play the guitar at an early age and had piano lessons, so you had a very good foundation for music.
Mm-hmm.
But during the learning period, did you think that eventually one day you were going to be a performer or musical artist?
Honestly, I just always did music as a spiritual thing. I've mainly started with music at church, which is how a lot of people start, and that was like my main way and reason to learn playing guitar in the first place. I did piano for a little bit, but not too long, and so music has always been like a healing source for me. So when it came to performing, it was never like, I know I'm gonna be performing, but I actually really enjoy it. So as I started doing like open mics and then started doing concerts and like bigger events, it just became more natural to me to start performing more, making my own music.
Yeah, because I know that growing up, I performed at a lot of the family reunions and everything, but it was very rare for you to go up there.
Yeah, that's true.
So this performing and everything is something that you found outside of that.
I'm just stubborn. I only like to do things if I want to do them. So if I don't want to perform, then I won't.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, both of us being Filipino, we grew up around the Filipino karaoke culture.
Mm-hmm.
Filipinos are famously known for their strong voices. And there's a ton of videos online of them displaying their range or just the amount of gusto they do when they're performing.
Mm-hmm.
When you and I did karaoke songs as a kid, we did songs like Skater Boy or My Heart Will Go On.
Mm-hmm.
However, you strived away from the ballad style of performing with your own songs. Mm-hmm. What were some of your influences when you were creating your own music?
Struggle. Shitty things happening, and it's basically like a lot of my projects at the beginning came from heartbreak. When it came to writing with guitar, I only knew a certain amount of chords. So I would just play those chords, and then I wrote a lot of poetry, so I would just sing poetry on the chords however I could figure it out. When I released my EP, I didn't know what sampling was in 2020. I didn't really know how sampling worked. So I would be on Spotify just kind of like scrubbing songs to the beginning to make a loop so that I could write on it. And usually those are like jazz, funk, fusion type stuff. And so it ended up being another version of that, just kind of diary writing and then just singing on top of music that was already made or music that was repetitive. That's kind of where the writing came from. But I will say I'm very influenced by like the performance side of things, especially karaoke, because, as you know, my mom owned CMG, the Filipino restaurant, Cafe Manila and Grill, and I have a lot of memories of doing karaoke with all the drunk adults, and I was the only kid there, but I would be performing for them, and they'd be, like, putting me on their shoulders, being like, yeah, you got 100 points on the karaoke machine, and I'm just performing, like, Britney Spears and stuff for them, so stuff like that was fun. But over time, my writing can only be what it is, which is like primarily, not strictly, but primarily based off of emotion.
For a time, you were supporting yourself and you actually did a cross-country move. And then you established yourself within the LA music community. What would you say are important things people need to consider when they're entering into a music community? For example, you moved into a new town. What are the things that you would do to integrate yourself within the new music community you're in?
Yeah, I actually just had to do that again when I moved back to Houston. But basically, my first step is always to find where the music is in the city. So I research open mics. I go on Instagram, TikTok, Google, like just kind of searching where the open mics are. In Houston, it's like primarily DJ focused. So that's kind of where I started. I just found all of the DJs and I kept going to parties. And basically, the easiest way to get integrated is to go to events, to put yourself out there. You can't really try to find community by staying inside. It doesn't really work that way. And also just kind of being open to the type of people you'll meet and know that not everybody is supposed to be your best friend and not everybody is going to be your best friend. But when you find the right people, then you'll know. It'll be easy.
Then I haven't had a chance to see you perform your kind of music. What would you say is your preferred venue for doing it? Or what kind of venues have you performed in the past?
I've kind of done a wide range. I've done open mics. I've done parties, bigger events with like over 100 people. On New Year's, I'm doing a gala, which is going to be interesting. That's going to be probably my biggest show. But it ranges. I've had shows when I was first starting where it's just like at a bar with like nothing but the bartenders and the people who run the show. And then I've had, like I said, like over 100 people at my own events that I've thrown. I've had a pretty decent amount of people, but usually more intimate spaces, like smaller spaces where there's not really a stage. It's more like we're all kind of gathered around together, hanging out, and I'm just sharing what I do with them. Mm-hmm.
So let's go over your discography.
Mm-hmm.
April 20th, 2020, you released your EP, Space Honey.
Yes, it is. Which
includes Clouds, Forest Towel, The Choices, Oceans, and Studio Healing. How did you feel when you released this EP? Were there certain goals that you wanted to achieve with it?
That EP was made during a very interesting time in my life. I was homeless at the time. I was living out of my car in LA, and I was working in a kitchen, and I was just working, and then I would like connect with different musicians at that time, right? That whole EP was very much emotion based. I'm listening to music, and at the time, right before I wasn't able to live where I was living at the time, I was DJing vinyl a lot, specifically jazz and jazz funk from like the 70s. And so there were all these artists that I really liked from that time period. And I would hear parts of the song and I'd be like, oh, this would be really cool if somebody rapped over this. Without me knowing that's how sampling fucking works. I didn't fucking know how sampling worked. But I was like, cool. And then I kept showing it to my rapper friends and they couldn't vibe with it. And so I was like, I'm going to do it then. So I'm like listening to it on Spotify, like I said, and I'm literally on Spotify just scrubbing it back to the beginning every few seconds so that I can write on it. And that's how like things like The Choice was made or Studio Healing. And at the time I knew some really awesome producer friends. My friend Aiden is a really good producer. And then same thing with Colin and another guy named Jerry. He goes by Nebula's Beach in LA, in Long Beach. Basically, I would go up to the people that I did know that knew how to produce and said, hey, can you loop just this part for me? And they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'll be like, no, just this, like, from this timestamp to this timestamp, just loop it for me. And they would do it for like 4 minutes, just send me a 4-minute loop of that one part, and then I would just write. Because at that time, I was very emotional, so my emotions were high. I was in, like, adventure mode. So I was just, like, writing. And then around April 2020, that was, like, COVID was really hitting during March, April. I wasn't able to stay at my uncle's house anymore. And so after not being able to stay at that house, which was another moment of me being unhoused, then I basically just decided, you know what? My birthday's coming up. Let's release this shit. It's already done. One of my producer friends mixed it because he's a really super talented guy. And when we recorded everything in his studio was like this really fancy spot right above a fucking hair salon. It was so random. But it was a really fancy studio that someone had built out up there. And we recorded it, he mixed it, and then it was my birthday. My birthday's on 4/20, which is April 20th. So I released it on my birthday. And that's the story behind the EP. Now, did I have a goal? Probably not. There was no real goal. There was no, actual, oh, I'm gonna release this and it's gonna get popular. It was just, I really like these sounds together, and so I'm going to do them together, which I did, and it was fun. I had a good time.
And then what kind of promotion strategies did you do to promote your first EP?
I'm not gonna say that I am good at promotion. I'm not very good at it. If I do anything, I basically just post snippets on Instagram and stuff. But for the most part, a lot of my music gets around by the people I know and word of mouth. But, just posting snippets, I guess. That's kind of the main thing for that project. There was no strategy. I remember on the day that I released the EP, I did post a snippet of the song over an episode of Space Dandy. So there's a Space Dandy episode when he goes to the planet of these plants that become conscious, and then these plants are they have a government and everything, and so it's the visuals on that episode is really dope. So I put that, and I just put my song over it, and then I posted it because that's all I really knew how to do. I think I just screen recorded it and I put it together in iMovie. I don't know. I didn't know how to do shit like that.
A true DIY musician.
Everything I do is DIY. For real. But yeah. And then I paid someone to do the graphic design on it, which was good. So, yeah. I don't think that matches my style anymore because my name was Space Honey at that time. That's not my style anymore. But it was a moment, for sure. It was a moment. I had a moment. Very spacey moment.
Now, there was a little bit of a gap between releases, but everything else seems to be this year.
That's true.
July 7th, 2023, you released your single, Venus. That was a collaboration with you and Slim Face.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm not upset about that release, but I wasn't expecting it. Mm-hmm. That song was written in 2020. And it didn't get released till 2023. In July of 2023, or in, what's before July? June, he texts me and he's like, hey, we're releasing the song. And I was like, I have a release coming up in July. Why are you going to release this now? Slim is from Budapest. He just sent me that beat a long time ago and I wrote on it. And it was cool. I liked it. The song is cool, but it's just not my style anymore. So for them to release it so late, I was kind of like, it doesn't match my style, but go for it. I wasn't going to stop them because I like the song, but it's not really my style anymore. But that song I did write in 2020, 3 years ago. Over 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. That is a whole other version of me before I could write the way I do now. So
that would explain why the next release would be July 17th of 2020.
Yeah, why would I have something on the 20th, on the 7th, and then another one on the 17th? I was so... Not bad. Not bad. No bad blood. No bad blood. I had plans for July. Mm-hmm. But Venus is a good song. That's one of those songs that I just kind of wrote easy. They just sent me the beat, and I did it in 30 minutes or something. And then I just sang it, and I sent them the stems, and then they just did whatever they wanted with it until they released it, which was cool. That was when I was in my spiritual lo-fi bag. But you said Time to Waste.
I didn't. But speaking of, July 17, 2020 was the single Time to Waste. Mm-hmm. That was with you and, was it Super Intra?
Yeah, Super Intra, Sol Galliano. My friend Sol Galliano has been making amazing music, amazing producer, graphic designer, artist, all around just a beautiful person. They have been producing for a really long time. I collaborated, did some background vocals for some of their songs when they need it and stuff like that. So one day they hit me up and they were like, let's do something together. I said, produce something for me. And they produced that beat, which was Time to Waste. And it took me a couple days to write it, but I was literally just walking around my apartment with it on loop. And I was just writing. I was cooking and I was writing. I was doing stuff and I was writing. And it kind of just really fell together really nicely. I really like that song. So I put a lot more intention into that song.
And this one came with a big, well, not big, but a bunch of small video promotional campaigns on TikTok and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. I did a whole, I did a party
Oh.
I did a release party. So for Time to Waste, it was my first song I had released that I wanted to release in 3 years. And so I hadn't released anything in 3 years, so I was hanging out with one of my friends. We were talking, my friend Pam, shout out to Pam. She was like, she's like from New York, so she'd be like, you should throw a party. And I'll be like, you should throw a party. And I was like, yeah, girl, you're right, I should throw a party. So I did. And I set it up. I had so many artists. So I had Shelby Ruger, who's really dope queer pop artist out of Houston. A lot of Houston artists. Nicotine just released a really cool album. She's like very soulful R&B, really amazing singer. Neptune is also another amazing singer, R&B, very soulful, very spiritual, very good at storytelling. And then Beloved Son, which is a duo of Soul, who produced the song, and their bandmate, who is artist named You. I had a whole lineup of artists, and I didn't really know if people were going to show up, low-key. But I just kept promoting, and I did a whole music video for it that I filmed myself on my phone. Well, I filmed it on my phone, edited the music video in Premiere. And so I basically did it as like a release party for one single. And I had a bunch of friends, and it was a pretty good turnout. Probably like, I would say over 50 people showed up, which is pretty nice. And I didn't know most of them, so I was like, y'all must be down for the cause. But yeah, that was like the main thing that I did for Time to Waste. And then I did a couple of promotional videos, but they were just cuts from the music video.
September 1st, 2023, you released your single Blue Voyage with Seraphine Noir. And then October 13th, 2023, you released your single Spooky.
You want to know how Blue Voyage came together?
Sure. Tell me about Blue Voyage. How did that come together?
So Seraphine Noir is a anonymous jazz artist that became TikTok famous. And he's TikTok famous anonymously, which is crazy. And the reason why he's TikTok famous is because he makes OST type of music. And so he would put things like, oh, why this music sound like it should be on Cowboy Bebop? Or, oh, this new song, like, oh, did you hear the new Cowboy Bebop soundtrack? And it would be his music. And people would listen to it and be like, oh, this is crazy. It's like modern OST music. So he's really talented, really cool guy. And I just kept messaging him, and I was like, let's collab. Let's do it. And then he finally was like, actually, I do have something that I want you to do on this one song. Can you do it? And I was like, sure, what is it? And he was basically like, I need some tribal operatic type of vocals at the end. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, I want it to sound like I'm walking through a desert and stuff. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, sure, I could do that. Sure, why not? I'll do it. So then he sent me the reference track, and it's this crazy Egyptian sounding, like, it was very like operatic and really, really like intense sounding. So he sent me the stems for the part, and I just took like 4 takes of it. Mm-hmm. And it was literally me, like, singing really loud opera in my apartment. And I felt so bad for my neighbors. I was like, my neighbors probably fucking hate me right now. But I was basically singing it. I took 4 takes, and I sent it to him, and he was like, this is perfect. And then he put it on the song. And it was technically only supposed to be a feature. It wasn't supposed to be my name on under the actual artist name. Because I'm just a feature, you know? I'm just at the end of the song. I didn't even write lyrics. It's just me going, like, all at the end. So I'm not even, like, actually on it. I mean, I am. And so after, like, when that had came out, he did so much promo for it. Before the song came out, the last TikTok that he released, or that he posted, had almost 2 million views or something crazy like that. He just, like, kind of blew up from the anime thing. So after that had happened, he put it all together, and he's a hustler. He, like, had it released in, like, a week. So he, like, got the cover art, got everybody who collaborated on it, mixed it, and released it within, like, 2 weeks. He's so crazy. But it worked. And now it has 500 million listens on Spotify, which is pretty crazy. My listener count went from 30 people to 50,000 people in one day from that one song. And he was like, oh dude, I'm sorry, they accidentally put your name on there, but I'm gonna leave it because it looks good. And I was like, slay, do it. Slay. So yeah, that's how that song happened, which is pretty funny. It was fun. That was a fun one. And then Spooky. You want to talk about Spooky?
Sure, we can talk about Spooky. Tell me about Spooky.
So Spooky is a song that already exists. So Spooky is a cover of a Dusty Springfield song that is also called Spooky. That's why it's Spooky. Oops, excuse me, I burped. I hope you leave that in there.
Okay.
You don't have to if you don't want to. I'll start over. So Spooky is a song that was by Dusty Springfield, and I think it came out in the 60s, I believe. I think it was 64, not sure. But it's already a song. I really love that song. And so I was like learning it on the guitar because it was pretty easy to learn on the guitar. And usually when I play guitar, I do like bossa nova jazzy type of playing, but I just use the same chords. So I learned it on the guitar and I was like, why don't I do a cover of this? Like actually record it. I made the beat for it. I recorded the guitar. I found the sample for the drums. I did all of the layering and I did basically the production. I produced the song. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna do a live video where I'm gonna like sing it and like record it. But the video kept getting pushed back because, you know, people are busy. We're all independent artists. We're not always going to be able to get things done right away. I didn't have the income to pay for people, so they just helped me. Like, my friends helped me because they're beautiful. And so my friend Natasha, she's an amazing photographer out in Houston, and she also has an old camcorder. And so I was wanting to do that, but because it kept getting pushed back, I was like, I really want to release this on Friday the 13th. Even if it's just the video, I want it on Friday the 13th. Because that makes sense. It's spooky. It's October. Like, we need to be on brand. So everything kept getting pushed back till literally the week of Friday the 13th. And so I was like, fuck, this is coming up. So we got it done. We filmed it on the Monday of that week, and instead of doing it live, I decided to just record it myself. So usually I like recording myself anyway at my house. I have like my own studio set up at home. So I recorded it myself and I sent it to Yumi, which is like, she was interning at a studio that I went to and she wants more stuff for her portfolio. So I was like, hey, can you mix this song for me? And she did a fucking amazing job, better than some professionals that I've worked with. I'm just like, this is crazy. So she did it for me, and we went back and forth, and she mixed it, and that was done by Monday. Tuesday, I filmed the video with my friend, Natasha, and then Wednesday and Thursday, I'm editing all day. And I was editing the music video till 11 o'clock the night before the release on Thursday. And so I already had posted it on DistroKid because that's what I use as my distributor. And then I put it on YouTube and I basically just edited the video myself, put it on YouTube, and it came out on Friday the 13th. And it worked. It all came together at the end. That was super fun. I really liked that. And I was really influenced by like 2000s trip hop, so that's why there's a lot of like dub sounding, a lot of delay that happens in that song. And that was my first time releasing anything that I've produced because most of other songs that I've released have been produced by other people. So yeah, that's spooky. That's what happened.
And this is the question that I like to ask on my podcast. And I know you don't really play your guitar for your music too often, but do you name your instruments?
No, I actually don't. I used to, but I haven't. Because I do play guitar a lot when I'm at home. It's like my acoustic, it's like a classical acoustic with my electric guitar, but I don't name them. Actually, I should. I should give them names. I name my cars.
Oh, yeah, that's a question I like to ask. And sometimes people do name their instruments. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just need someone to ask the question before they do name their instrument.
I know. I'm like, maybe I should. It's a good idea.
Thank you for being a guest here on the What's in Your Case podcast. Do you have anything you'd like to promote or tell the listeners where they can find your content?
So, you can find me on all social media platforms at Earth, as in the planet we live on, 2TO, REIA, REIA. That's Earth to REIA. And as for things coming up, I do have a couple of projects in the works right now with no definite release date, but I will, before the end of the year, be releasing DJ mixes under my new project called The Lover World, and I'm super excited about that. I've been working on that for a while, and then I do have a couple of singles coming up and a full-length project, hopefully beginning next year. But there's no solid dates because music just makes itself whenever it's supposed to be made, and I am not able to define it as much as I want to try to. I try to put it in a box, and it always breaks. So I just kind of keep making it. But yeah, I will be performing at Set Gala, which is a gala ran by the group in New Orleans called Set to Flow. It's like a really dope DJ group with Little Jodeci, Mikey Offline, and a bunch of Juice. Also, very cool group of people out in New Orleans. Shout out to Vic. Yeah, if you want to meet me in New Orleans, I'll be performing there. It's a Sade themed Met set. It's basically a spin on the Met Gala, but it's called Set Gala, which is fun. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Slay. Big slay. Thanks, Kuya.